You ever wake up on a Monday morning, feeling like your life is completely normal, only to realize that normal is actually this delicate balance of invisible tensions? That was me. I had no idea that a simple, sunny morning in my small city apartment in the US would mark the beginning of a conflict that would challenge everything. I thought about love, loyalty, and boundaries. I'm 26, living alone in a cozy studio downtown. My life mapped out in routines I love. I start my mornings with a hot cup of artisan coffee from the corner cafe, scrolling through emails while my dog sprawls at my feet. Her name is Bella, and she's been with me since she was a tiny, wobbly puppy. People joke that I treat her like a human, but to me, she is family. I cooked for her, plan our weekend walks meticulously, and I'd spend anything to keep her safe. She's my heart outside of my own body. Then there's him, my boyfriend, 28, a single dad. He's charming, funny, and caring in a way that makes you trust him instantly. But he comes with a 5-year-old, the result of a previous relationship. He shares custody equally with the kid's mum. 1 week with him, 1 week with her. He has a bigger apartment than mine, with an extra bedroom for the boy. When he told me about this arrangement, I was honest about myself. I like kids, but I don't love them. And I never want to be a stepmom. I didn't want responsibility for his child. He said he understood, and for a while it seemed like we were on the same page. Our relationship settled into this comfortable rhythm. Weekdays, I stayed in my apartment with Bella. Weekends, we'd see each other. Sometimes I'd meet his son at the park or join in on a museum visit. I liked him well enough, but I didn't feel that constant heart-tugging attachment. And I didn't feel guilty about it. I respected that his son was his priority, just like I knew Bella was mine. Bella was the constant in my life, the family I had chosen. Every morning, when she bounded into the kitchen, tail wagging, eyes bright, I felt a burst of joy. She would leap onto me, nuzzle my hand, or just sit on my lap like nothing else in the world mattered. These small rituals grounded me. I loved her with a depth that surprised even myself sometimes. At first, everything seemed fine, almost idyllic. But little signs started to creep in. He'd make offhand comments about money. Buying this for your dog again. What about my son? Or, if you can spend this on her, couldn't you do the same for him? At first I laughed it off. I assumed he was joking. But gradually, those jokes began to feel like judgments. Every purchase, every little indulgence for Bella, was being measured against his son's needs. I live in a culture where independence is valued, where your money, your choices, your life are yours. Bella wasn't just a pet. She was my family, my choice, my investment of love and care. And suddenly, I felt like I had to defend that. Why was loving my dog, caring for her, seen as less valid than caring for his child? Why did my freedom to make choices about my own money feel challenged? It was subtle at first. Remark here, a tease. There, but slowly it began to change the tone of our relationship. It made me nervous, made me second-guess our compatibility. Was it really possible to love someone who made you feel judged for your priorities? Or, worse, was I overreacting? And then one morning, as sunlight spilled across the hardwood floor and Bella leapt up onto my lap, I realized something. This small, perfect moment of peace might not last. The love I had for her and the independence I cherished so deeply were going to collide head-on with his world. And I had no idea how messy it was going to get, because that's when I understood, in this relationship, love wasn't going to be simple. It wasn't going to be just about us. It was about choices, boundaries, and whose life found whose family you truly put first. And I was about to be tested in ways I had never imagined. For weeks, everything had seemed stable. My life flowed in routines I loved, with Bella padding behind me wherever I went. Mornings were sacred coffee brewing, sunlight spilling over the counter, Bella sniffing at the mug as if she could tell it contained happiness. My boyfriend and I would text casually about weekend plans, maybe a coffee meetup, maybe a walk in the park. His son Jack was cheerful, polite, and fun enough to spend time with. But I never felt that missing pull when he wasn't around. That absence, surprisingly, felt like freedom to me, not loneliness. But slowly, tiny cracks started to appear. At first, it was subtle, a joke about money here, a casual remark there, buying another toy for Bella. He asked one afternoon, casually tossing it out as he stirred his coffee. What about Jack? Shouldn't he get a treat too? I laughed nervously, brushing it off. It's just a chew toy, I said. He's got plenty. Sure, he replied with a smirk. But you spend on her like, I don't know, like she's royalty. I remembered thinking, okay, maybe he's joking. Or maybe he's noticing something he didn't expect. I didn't overthink it yet, but the remarks became more frequent. Every little expense for Bella now seemed to invite comparison. If I splurged on a grooming session, he would ask if I had done something nice for Jack. If I bought a new leash or some fancy treats, he'd comment, that's a lot for a dog. Are we budgeting for my son too? It wasn't the money itself, was the principle. Money, for me, had always been my choice. I earned it, I spent it, I decided what mattered. Bella wasn't just a pet, she was family, and taking care of her was my responsibility, my love, my joy. And suddenly, I felt like I had to justify it. One evening, after a long week, I came home to find Bella limping slightly. At first, I thought she had hurt herself during a walk, maybe jumped awkwardly off the couch. My heart sank. I knelt beside her, gently lifting her paw, checking for cuts or swelling. Nothing visible, but she whimpered quietly, and I knew something was wrong. I called the vet first thing the next morning. The diagnosis hit me like a freight train. She needed surgery. Not just a simple procedure, a full orthopedic operation. Cost several $1,000s. My stomach twisted as I listened to the vet explain the risks, the recovery, the level of care she would need afterward. I didn't hesitate. I told the office to schedule the surgery immediately. I would pay. I didn't question it, didn't think twice. To me, it was simple. Bella was family, and I would do anything for her. When I told him about it, though, I could tell immediately that his reaction was unexpected. Wow, he said, eyebrows raised. You're just paying that. That is... Yeah, I said. It's her life. I don't think twice about it. He was quiet for a moment, then said, so, if it were Jack, you'd do the same. I blinked. What kind of question is that? Of course, I said, carefully. He's your son. He's family, but to me, Bella is family. And to me, she matters. That was when I first noticed the shift. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. There was a shadow, a kind of unease, a recalibration happening. I could almost see him thinking, she values a dog as much as... No, more than my kid. After the surgery, Bella came home groggy but stable. I stayed by her side, sitting on the couch, holding her gently as she slept. My phone buzzed a text from him. "She's lucky to have you." It should have been a sweet moment, but somehow it felt like a test. A line had been crossed. A boundary had been recognized that neither of us knew how to handle. In the following days, I noticed a subtle but unmistakable change in him. He began bringing up money more often. Not aggressively, but in ways that made me conscious of every cent I spent. When I bought something small for Bella, he'd say, "That's cute, but what about Jack?" If I talked about weekend plans or hobbies that involved Bella, he'd ask how it would affect us financially. I tried to stay calm, tried to remind myself that he wasn't a villain. He loved his son, and of course he wanted to make sure his priorities were being met. But there was a tension, growing, a quiet judgment I could feel in his words, his tone, even in his pauses. One night, we were planning a weekend trip. I suggested a quiet hike, somewhere Bella could run freely. He immediately mentioned, "What about Jack? We could make it a fun weekend for him, too. Maybe share the costs." Something inside me snapped. "I don't want to pay for something I don't enjoy," I said. "I'm happy for you and him to go, just the two of you. And if you have money left over, maybe we can plan a trip for us, but I won't fund something I don't even enjoy." The silence on the other end of the call was deafening. Then came the question that would change everything. "Do you love your dog more than my son?" I took a deep breath. Honesty, as always, had been my guiding principle. "Yes," I said. "I chose her. She's my family." And that's when the real fight began. It lasted hours. Words were said, voices raised, hearts pounded. I tried to explain boundaries, personal priorities, and independence. He tried to explain why family obligations couldn't be measured in the same way as pet love. The tension wasn't about money alone, it was about values, respect, and the very definition of family. By the end of the night, exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally raw, I realized something. A line had been drawn. He saw Bella as a pet, a non-essential priority. I saw her as family, a chosen, unbreakable bond. We were staring at a fundamental incompatibility, one that no compromise could fix. The next few days were a mix of silent treatments and awkward conversations. Every small interaction was tinted with unspoken resentment. I found myself calculating what I said, how I acted, even where I spent my money. He found ways to bring up Jack subtly in conversations, reminders that our worlds weren't aligned, and through all of it, Bella remained the constant. She didn't care about arguments, comparisons, or financial debates. She just needed love, care, and stability, and I was determined to give her that. No matter what, looking back, I realized this was the moment our relationship began to unravel. Not because of money, not because of love, but because of values and boundaries, things that, once crossed, could never be repaired. It was subtle at first, almost invisible, but the cracks were forming, and I could see them widening with every day that passed. Little did I know, the next weeks would test me even further. Plans, conversations, and choices would all become battlegrounds. The surgery was just the spark, the beginning of a fire that would reveal who we truly were, what we valued, and whether love alone could hold us together. Spoiler, it couldn't. A week after Bella's surgery, I thought life would settle back into its normal rhythm. Mornings with coffee, music softly playing in my apartment, Bella padding beside MIT, all felt peaceful again. I thought the surgery scare was behind us, that we could just move on. I was wrong, on a Friday afternoon. He texted me about a weekend plan, a family getaway. At first, I was excited. I liked the idea of a short trip, fresh air, a little escape from the city. But then he added a detail that made my stomach drop. "I want Jack to come. We should go somewhere kids enjoy and split the costs." I read it twice. My heart sank. Here it was the thing I'd been trying to avoid, paying for a trip I had no interest in, just so his son could have fun. I replied, "You and Jack should go. Enjoy it together. If you have money left, maybe we can plan a trip for just the two of us. But I'm not funding something I don't even enjoy." There was a pause, and then the call came. I could hear his frustration immediately. "Do you really love your dog more than my son?" I drew in a deep breath. Honesty has always been my guiding principle. Yes, I chose Bella. She's family. And that night, the real fight began. At first, it was civil explanations, reasoning, trying to persuade. I spoke about personal financial independence, about how love for a chosen family member is just as valid. He spoke about his duty as a father, about how love for a child must come first, about responsibilities and priorities. But the discussion quickly spiraled. Voices rose, tempers flared. I could hear the tension in every breath, every heartbeat. He insisted, "We're a couple, which means we need to decide on spending together. I can't let you spend freely on a dog without thinking about my son." I shook my head. No. I never agreed to pay for Jack. I never wanted to, and I won't be forced to think for you. If you want joint financial decisions, then merge accounts. Otherwise, I spend on what matters to me, and you have no say. He went silent for a few seconds, then muttered, "I'm not judging, just reminding you," but his tone betrayed him. I glanced at Bella, curled up on the couch, her eyes following us as if she understood the tension. I felt for her, but I also knew I had to stand my ground. The fight dragged on for hours. Every argument I made was met with a stronger counter-argument. He emphasized that his son's needs were non-negotiable. I reminded him I had the right to spend on my chosen family, Bella, and that he had no right to demand otherwise. By the end, I realized something painful. Our values were fundamentally misaligned. He saw Jack as absolute priority. He saw Bella as a pet. I saw Bella as family, a part of my life that was essential. A difference so basic that no compromise could fix it. The next morning, I took Bella for a long walk to clear my head. Autumn leaves danced across the path, golden sunlight hit the lake, but I felt no peace. Instead, a storm of emotions swirled inside: sadness, frustration, disappointment, but also strength. I knew I had to make a choice. Either let this relationship erode my independence and happiness, or step away before it hurt me more. Things only got worse when he started bringing up other expenses I had no interest in. Birthday presents for Jack. Toys, clothes, camping trips I didn't want to join. Every suggestion felt like pressure. I would not be pushed to fund things I didn't care about. Finally, the truth was clear. We didn't share the same view on money, love, and family. He saw his son as the ultimate priority and wanted me to agree. I saw Bella as family, and no one could judge that. We loved each other, but love didn't mean sacrificing our values. And at that moment, I understood there was no way to reconcile this. We had to make a decision: either continue a relationship that would slowly break both of us, or end it before it caused more pain. The morning after the fight, I woke up to a quiet apartment. Bella was curled up on the sofa, her soft breathing a calming reminder that someone depended on me and that someone wasn't going to judge me for loving them fiercely. But despite her comforting presence, the tension lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. I made coffee, tried to scroll through my emails, tried to focus on work, but every little sound, every vibration from my phone made my chest tighten. I didn't want to answer his messages, not after the way the night had unfolded. The argument wasn't just about money, it was about values, priorities, respect, and boundaries. And for the first time, I realized something I had been avoiding. Maybe love wasn't enough to hold us together. Later that morning, he called. I debated, ignoring it, but I answered. His voice was calmer than the previous night, but there was a tension beneath it, an almost imperceptible edge that said, "We're not okay. I've been thinking," he said. Maybe I overreacted. I sipped my coffee, keeping my tone measured. Maybe, but it's not just about last night. This has been building for weeks. He paused. I want us to work. I don't want Bella to come between us. I don't want you to think I'm asking too much. I just want what's fair. And there it was again, fairness. His version of fairness, which meant I should prioritize his son's needs. And yet he had the audacity to question every penny I spent on Bella. He wanted shared decision-making, but only when it benefited his priorities. I felt a surge of anger that surprised even me. "I think we want different things," I said softly. "I never agreed to be responsible for Jack financially. I never will. And I also won't let you dictate how I spend my money. If that's a problem, we need to talk about it seriously." There was silence. He sighed, and I could almost hear him running through all the arguments he wanted to make. But for once, I held my ground. I didn't want to debate endlessly. I wanted clarity. Over the next few days, the tension didn't ease. Every small interaction carried the weight of the unresolved fight. A text about a new toy for Jack felt like an accusation. A casual mention of Bella's recovery made me bristle. We tiptoed around each other, neither willing to fully engage, yet unable to step away entirely. I spent more time at my apartment with Bella, walking her in the crisp fall air, letting the sun warm my face, letting her companionship anchor me. I thought about the life I wanted independent, with freedom to make decisions about what mattered most to me. And I realized that my relationship with him, while filled with love and moments of magic, was slowly eroding that independence. One evening, he showed up at my door unannounced. I wasn't expecting him, and part of me felt relief to see him, a small part hoping we could talk without the heat of the last fight. But as soon as I opened the door, I felt it again, the tension, the silent accusation. "I want to fix this," he said, stepping inside. "I don't want to lose us." I took a deep breath, feeling Bella press against my leg. "I don't want to lose us either," I said carefully. "But we have to face reality. We have different values. We see family differently. You see Jack as absolute priority, and I see Bella as family. And that's not negotiable." He flinched, but didn't interrupt. I continued, "I also see money differently. I value independence. I don't want to be part of a system where my spending is constantly judged, while your spending for Jack is unquestioned." His eyes softened, but there was a hint of sadness that made my chest ache. "So, what are you saying?" I hesitated, then said the words I had been circling for days. "I think maybe we can't continue. Not without one of us sacrificing too much of what matters to us. And I don't want to lose myself in this relationship. I love you, but I also love my life and Bella. And I can't compromise that. The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. He sat down, head in his hands, and I sat on the sofa across from him. Bella curled up between us, sensing the tension but offering comfort, I guess. I knew this was coming, he finally said. I just hoped. His voice broke slightly. I hoped we could find a way. I shook my head gently. Some things can't be fixed. We can't change who we are, what we value, and forcing it would only lead to resentment. We deserve partners who align with our priorities, not just someone we love. We talked for hours that night, not arguing, just unpacking emotions, explaining perspectives, and acknowledging truths we hadn't wanted to face before. By the end, we both understood our love was real, but it wasn't enough to bridge the gaps between us. In the following weeks, we slowly separated our lives. He spent more weekends with Jack without me. I focused on Bella, on my work, on reclaiming my sense of independence. There were moments of longing, moments of nostalgia when I remembered our shared laughter, the spark we once had. But the clarity remained. This was the right choice. And in those quiet moments, walking Bella along the leaf-strewn paths of the park, I realized something profound. Love is not always about staying together. Sometimes the deepest love is letting go, respecting differences, and giving each other the space to live fully. I didn't regret the decision. I loved him, truly, but I also loved myself and the life I had chosen. Bella was my family, my constant, my anchor. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free to prioritize what mattered to me without guilt or judgment. The first morning after the breakup, I woke up in my own apartment. The quiet was almost startling, as if everything around me had paused. Bella was curled up on the couch, breathing softly, her clear eyes watching me. Looking at her, I realized something obvious. This was the family I had chosen. The one I didn't need to explain or defend myself to. The relief was mixed with emptiness. I had finally escaped the pressure of compromising my values, yet I had lost a relationship I had truly loved. 2 years together. 2 years of shared moments and laughter, and now I had to face the truth. Love alone wasn't always enough to keep people together. In those first few days, I spent most of my time with Bella, morning walks in the park, taking care of her health, preparing her favorite meals, and filling the gaps with work or a few movies. But deep down, questions lingered. Did I do the right thing by breaking up? Was I selfish for loving my dog more than his son? One afternoon, sitting on my couch, watching Bella sleep peacefully on the floor, a realization struck me. I didn't want children. This wasn't new to me, but now, reflecting on the intense conflicts I had just lived through, I understood that it was a fundamental part of who I am. I couldn't ignore it. I didn't want to become a mother, nor did I want to put someone else's needs above my own values and choices. That thought brought a strange sense of relief. Finally, I understood that I had the right to live according to my own values, to focus on what truly mattered to me, without succumbing to societal pressures. I could love a person, love life, and still maintain boundaries. I could love Bella without guilt, and I had the right to choose my own path. Over the following weeks, I gradually restructured my daily life. I signed up for an online professional development course, met old friends for afternoon coffee, and dedicated a lot of time to Bella. Each morning, walking through the park, feeling the sunlight glint off the water and hearing the leaves rustle underfoot, I felt freedom, control, and fulfillment. No comparisons, no tension over money or priorities. Just me, Bella, and the life I had chosen. One day, I ran into an old friend. We sat in a sunlit cafe, sipping cappuccinos, and I told her about the breakup. The conflicts over Jack, the financial disagreements, and the tension that had been building for weeks. She looked at me, a sympathetic smile on her face. "Sounds like you've found yourself again," she said. I nodded, warmth spreading through me. She was right. Breaking up wasn't just about losing a relationship. It was about rediscovering myself. It was a reminder that I had the right to live according to my own values, free from the expectations or pressures of others. During those weeks, I came to a profound understanding. Love doesn't always mean being together. Sometimes, love means letting go, respecting differences, and allowing both people to follow paths that align with them. I loved him, but I also loved myself, and that self-love became the foundation for living freely, strongly, and fully. With this newfound clarity, I began thinking about the future. I wanted to continue developing my career, to travel, to experience life without constantly calculating every dollar for someone else. I wanted Bella to always be cared for, and I wanted my love and time to go toward the life I chose, not responsibilities I didn't opt into. One weekend afternoon, walking Bella by the lake, sunlight sparkling on the water, I paused, took a deep breath, and smiled. In that moment, I knew I was on the right path. Every decision, every choice, every experience from now on would belong to me, free and transparent. Watching Bella play with fallen leaves, I silently thanked her for always being by my side, for being my most loyal friend, a core member of the family I chose. And in that moment, I knew I would never regret the breakup, because it had helped me discover my values, define my own path, and find the freedom I had always wanted. Life after the breakup wasn't always easy. There were days I missed him, missed the closeness, the laughter we shared, but I knew those moments couldn't come at the expense of my values and boundaries. I learned to live with balance, to love, to remember, but not to be bound. And so, I stepped into a new chapter, one of freedom, choice, and pure love for myself and Bella. A chapter where I held the pen, writing my own story without compromising on what didn't belong to me. The fall slowly passed, painted in warm hues. Leaves crunched underfoot as Bella and I walked familiar streets, sunlight filtering through the trees. No more pressures, no more financial tensions, no responsibilities for someone else's child. I felt freer than ever. Every morning followed the same routine. I woke up with Bella, walked her around the nearby lake, sipping coffee as she ran and wagged her tail, chasing fallen leaves. Those seemingly ordinary moments had suddenly become precious. I realized freedom wasn't just about being unbound, was about truly savoring each moment. Work changed too. I moved to a new company, with better pay and clear opportunities for growth. I focused on learning new skills, attended workshops, and gradually expanded my social network. Every conversation, every new connection made me feel alive, like I was rediscovering parts of myself I'd neglected during my previous relationship. One Friday evening, I attended a casual outdoor company party. Bella stayed home with a trusted neighbor, and I wore my favorite dress, holding a glass of wine, blending into laughter and chatter. I realized I could enjoy life without relying on anyone else. When someone asked about my single life, I smiled and said, "I'm happy with myself and Bella. We're a team." During this period, potential new relationships began to appear. A few men crossed my path, not many, but enough to spark curiosity. I wasn't rushing into anything. I observed, I chose carefully, seeking people who respected my independence and boundaries, who didn't pressure me to change what I valued most. One afternoon, I met Alex, a new colleague from a project at work. He was funny, thoughtful, and most importantly, he respected me as an independent person. We started talking more about work, hobbies, favorite travel spots, and hidden local cafes. I felt a sense of relief, someone I could connect with without judgment or pressure to conform. At the same time, I delighted in little trips with Bella. We explored new parks, tested new trails, and each outing brought me closer to nature and to myself. Bella's eyes sparkled with joy, as if she sensed the peace and happiness radiating from me. I also realized that independence doesn't mean loneliness. I learned to enjoy social connections, friendships, and community without being tied down. Old friends, colleagues, neighbors all became part of a support network I built through my independence. One Sunday afternoon, sitting in a lakeside cafe, sipping a latte and watching Bella play among the falling leaves, I reflected on the past months. I had survived the heartbreak, faced my emotions, and finally discovered my true values. I understood that independence, freedom, and living according to personal values weren't just important, they were prerequisites for loving and connecting with others in a healthy way. Moments like these made me feel complete. No comparisons, no compromises with things that didn't fit me. I could choose joy, choose peace, and choose my own happiness, while enjoying freedom and exploring potential connections. I realized one thing: Bella wasn't just a pet. She was family, a core part of the life I chose. Every act of care for her reminded me of the value of unconditional love and genuine companionship. Ultimately, independent life isn't about living alone or being without love. It's about the ability to choose, to set boundaries, to respect yourself, while still sharing joy, connection, and meaningful experiences with others. I learned to balance personal freedom with social connections, independence with emotional bonds, and that is the life I am building: free, full, centered on Bella and me, where I choose joy and experience, where connections appear naturally based on mutual respect and understanding. A life I fully control, bringing a happiness nothing else could replace. The first weeks of winter rolled in, the city wrapped in a chill and twinkling evening lights, and I felt a strange sense of peace. Independent life had given me freedom, but it also forced me to face challenges I hadn't imagined when I was still in my previous relationship. One of the biggest challenges was managing my emotions without leaning on anyone else. When I was with him, I often sought comfort or at least someone to listen. Now, I had to confront every feeling myself, from loneliness and longing to anxiety about the future. Mornings, in the quiet of my apartment, I'd look at Bella sleeping on the couch, sigh, and remind myself that I'd be okay. Then I'd start organizing everything on my own. Work still took up much of my time, but I started taking on bigger, more challenging projects. I had to learn to handle pressure, make quick decisions, and sometimes face small failures. Once, I led a major project without much prior experience, and the initial results fell short of expectations. I felt frustrated, but instead of blaming anyone, I learned to stand up, analyze my mistakes, and improve step by step. That moment taught me something important. Real growth comes from confronting and overcoming challenges on your own. Alongside work, I began participating in more social activities, art workshops, small gallery exhibitions, weekend yoga classes. Each offered me a chance to meet new people and form connections. For the first time, I realized that life outside a romantic relationship could also provide meaningful, deep connections. I learned to talk, to share feelings, and sometimes just to listen was enough. One memorable experience was a weekend outing organized by a new group of friends. Bella came along, running everywhere, and I sat in the circle of people, listening as they shared stories about life, work, dreams, and failures. I felt part of a community I had never belonged to before. But it was here that I faced a new challenge, opening up while maintaining boundaries, not relying too much, not rushing into intimacy. Self-discovery also came in quiet moments. One afternoon, walking alone through the park, Bella running ahead, her eyes bright with joy. I stopped by the lake, watching sunlight glint off the water, and asked myself, what do I really want? Who am I living for? Simple questions, yet they forced me to reflect deeply on my values, what I truly desired in life, and the person I wanted to become in the process. I also faced the difficulty of balancing work, social life, and personal time. Some days felt overwhelming, and all I wanted was to stay home with Bella and read a book in peace. But I understood that independent life also means being responsible for everything: time, emotions, work, and relationships. I learned to plan, prioritize, and sometimes accept that not everything would be perfect. But what mattered was moving forward step by step. Another unforgettable moment was attending a city light festival. The streets were dazzling, lights reflecting off the water, Bella running joyfully beside me. Standing in the crowd, I felt both alone and exhilarated. I reminded myself that independence doesn't equal loneliness. I could find joy, connection, and amazing experiences, long as I was willing to open up while staying true to my values. Through these challenges and experiences, I realized that self-awareness and the ability to live independently are the most valuable assets. From small decisions like buying a favorite treat for Bella, to big ones like investing in a work project, I felt the real power in my hands. No one could decide for me, no one could impose on me, and that brought a sense of absolute freedom. Gradually, I saw myself change. I grew stronger, more patient, and more complete. I learned to love myself before loving anyone else, to balance freedom with connection, and most importantly, to understand that independent life isn't temporary, it's a journey of self-discovery and building happiness on your own terms. Watching Bella sleep on the couch one chilly evening, I smiled. She wasn't just a pet. She was an inseparable part of my self-discovery journey. Every step, every experience, every challenge became more meaningful because I knew I was living fully, true to my values and choices. And so, I continued into new days with freedom, independence, and excitement. Each day became an opportunity to learn, to connect, and to love in ways I chose. Independent life wasn't always easy, but it was an extraordinary journey of self-discovery and building lasting happiness. Winter slowly gave way to warmer spring days. Sunlight filtered gently through my apartment windows each morning, and Bella bounded around like she could feel the rhythm of this new chapter creeping into our lives. I could sense clearly that my life was opening up to new experiences and richer social connections than ever before. One of the biggest changes was building deeper social relationships, not just casual encounters or small talk, but genuine connections where people shared opinions, feelings, and sometimes secrets they hadn't told anyone. I learned to listen, to empathize, and most importantly, to stay true to myself within these relationships. One Friday night, I was invited to a small gathering hosted by a new group of friends. Bella stayed home, and I wore my favorite soft blue dress with flats to move comfortably. When I arrived, I saw friendly faces, open eyes, and an inviting warmth that immediately put me at ease. No pretending, no effort to fit in, just ease. There, I met Liam, a mutual friend of some co-workers. He was witty, thoughtful, and, most importantly, knew how to ask questions to understand someone without being intrusive. We started talking about books, music, and dream travel destinations. For the first time in months, I felt comfortable sharing parts of my personal life without fear of judgment. But it wasn't all easy. Opening up also brought new, emotional challenges. As Liam began occupying my thoughts more, I asked myself, was I ready for a serious relationship, or was I just enjoying the attention and feeling cared for? I realized that independence doesn't mean avoiding emotional connections. It means knowing the right time and the right person. In the following weeks, I tried new social activities. I joined a weekend cooking class where people were split into groups to learn dishes from different cultures. Bella came with me on late afternoons, lying quietly beside the table as I focused on learning. Through this class, I not only learned to cook, but also how to collaborate, listen to others' opinions, and occasionally accept that I might be wrong or need to adjust my approach. One of the most memorable experiences was volunteering at a local community center. We helped organize a children's reading event and supported creative activities. I felt joy in giving without expecting recognition. At that moment, I realized that connecting with the community not only brings joy to others, but also helps me discover myself. Understanding that I can have a positive impact, even if small. Of course, not every experience was smooth. Some days felt overwhelming, especially balancing work, new social connections, and caring for Bella. I learned to set boundaries and say no without guilt. For example, one time, a group of friends planned a weekend trip, but I knew I needed rest and preparation for an important work project. Saying no gracefully gave me a sense of power and control over my life. One afternoon, walking with Bella by the lake, sunlight dancing on the water, I sat on the grass and began journaling my thoughts and feelings. Writing helped me understand myself better, clarifying what I truly wanted in relationships, work, and everyday life. I realized that observing and recording my emotions was a vital step in personal and emotional growth. During this time, Liam became a part of my life, but I maintained independence and didn't let emotions dictate every decision. I learned to balance opening up to others with protecting my core values. Every conversation, every meeting, was an opportunity to learn, experience, and define my own boundaries. Then, one evening, as the city lights flickered on, Bella curled up on the couch beside me while I sipped a hot tea, looking out the window. I realized that one of the most important turning points in life is learning to open up to the world while keeping your center intact. I felt complete, strong, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Independent life wasn't just living alone or being without a partner. It was a journey of self-discovery, testing limits, and expanding one's ability to connect with the world around you. Each experience, each new relationship, each reflective moment shaped the person I am today, a free, independent, and vibrant individual, with Bella always by my side. I understood that love and connection don't always have to come from people. Sometimes, the loyal, unconditional bond with a pet is enough to teach devotion, simple joy, and a sense of peace. And I knew that no matter the challenges, I had the strength to face them, overcome them, and keep moving forward on my chosen path. Spring was gradually giving way to summer, and the city was bathed in warm golden light. Longer afternoons meant more time for Bella and me to take walks. But with the new season came the realization that opening up to potential romantic relationships also brought challenges I hadn't faced. Before Liam continued to appear in my life consistently but gently. We met after work, attended cultural events together, or simply grabbed coffee and talked about life. At first, everything felt natural, effortless, but then I noticed myself beginning to anticipate his presence more than I expected. The feelings were both exciting and confusing. I asked myself, was I letting this relationship influence the independent life I had worked so hard to build? One evening, we strolled through the city's historic district, where cozy cafes and old bookstores created a warm, inviting atmosphere. Liam held my hand, a small gesture, yet enough to make my heart race. I felt both joy and fear. Joy because I was sharing a moment. Fear because I had never allowed anyone to affect my rhythm and life choices so strongly. Emotional clashes began to surface as I realized that a potential relationship wasn't just fun, it also involved emotional demands and responsibilities. Liam wanted to know more about my past, my previous relationships, and my views on love. I felt conflicted. Part of me wanted to open up, but another part wanted to protect my privacy. I learned to weigh every answer carefully, not only to maintain my personal space, but also to better understand my own feelings. A particularly significant moment came when Liam invited me on a weekend trip with his close friends. I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The trip would last 3 days, packed with group activities and social interaction. I realized this was a critical test. Could I maintain my independence and emotional control in a new environment without losing myself? During the trip, I practiced self. Sometimes I wanted to join every activity, but I knew my mind and body needed rest. I intentionally took solo walks, breathed in fresh air, and journaled my swirling thoughts and emotions. Bella wasn't with me this time, but I thought of her as my anchor, helping me stay balanced. Moments of solitude during the trip brought profound self. I asked myself, how much do I care for Liam? What do I want from this relationship? Am I ready to harmonize with someone else's life without sacrificing my own values? Simple questions, yet they forced me to confront myself directly and seriously. Then one night, gathered around a campfire, I saw Liam looking at me with warmth and affection. I felt his feelings clearly, but I also realized that love does not mean giving up control over the life I've worked to build. I decided to have an honest conversation with Liam about boundaries, personal space, and the values I wanted to maintain. He listened and understood, but I recognized that any relationship would always be challenging if both people weren't aligned on values and exploits. After the trip, returning home to Bella, I felt a sense of relief and completeness. I realized that challenges in romantic relationships teach not only about others, but also about oneself. Every emotional clash, every moment of disagreement, every instance of confusion became an opportunity to test limits, recognize personal needs, and clarify desires. In the following weeks, I learned to balance, keeping distance when necessary, opening up when safe, and always asking myself, does this align with my values? Does this make me happy? This self-questioning allowed me to maintain independence and autonomy while allowing feelings to grow naturally and healthily. Another memorable experience was attending a personal development workshop focused on emotions, communication, and relationships. I realized that learning how to manage and express emotions is crucial to living independently while still connecting with others. I applied these lessons in everyday life with friends, co-workers, and even Liam. One evening, sitting by the lake with Bella running around, the sunset reflecting off the water, I smiled and understood that every relationship carries challenges, but how we confront them and understand ourselves determines true happiness. I felt strong, confident, and certain that no matter the outcome of any relationship, I would always have the capacity to love, connect, and uphold my values. Independent life, with all its emotional challenges and romantic trials, taught me a vital lesson. Love is not about sacrificing yourself. Love is understanding yourself, protecting your values, and walking alongside someone else in balance and respect. With Bella by my side, I felt complete. She was not just a companion, but an essential part of my journey towards self-awareness and emotional balance. I knew that no matter the difficulties and new challenges in romance, I would always be strong enough to face them, understand myself better, and continue moving forward on my path of independence, freedom, and happiness. Summer had arrived, bringing long, sun-filled days that bathed the streets and parks where I often walked Bella. After months of experiences, emotional challenges, and I felt I had traveled a long journey, full of trials, but incredibly rewarding. It was time to pause, look back, and reflect on everything I had gone through. Independent life wasn't just living alone, it was learning to take care of myself, make decisions, and be accountable for my own life. I remembered the early days when I was unsure if I could handle everything on my own, from taking care of Bella, managing finances, to balancing work and social life. Now, I realized those challenges had made me stronger, more confident, and more aware of my own worth. A key part of this journey was deep self-awareness. I learned to differentiate between fleeting emotions and true desires, between loneliness and the conscious choice of independence. Every decision I made, from attending cooking classes, walking with Bella, to opening up to Liam, was an opportunity to understand myself better. I realized that happiness doesn't come from being cared for or validated by others, but from choosing your own path. Looking back on relationships, especially with Liam, I saw clearly that love and independence aren't mutually exclusive, they require balance. I didn't need to give up my values, nor did I have to completely compromise, but I could still open my heart and share feelings. Even when clashes occurred, when emotions got messy, I learned to face them, listen, and adjust without losing myself. The small, everyday moments became profoundly meaningful. Bella, with her unwavering loyalty and unconditional joy, was an essential part of my growth. Every morning when she jumped around the apartment, when I cooked, went for walks, or simply read a book, I felt a deep connection, not just with her, but with myself. She reminded me that simple joys and devotion can teach as much about love and happiness as any human relationship. Work, though still demanding, became a place to express my abilities and value. I no longer feared failure or judgment, but learned to challenge myself, grow from mistakes, and progress step by step. This gave me confidence that, no matter what life throws my way, I have the ability to face and overcome it. Social life also opened doors to meaningful connections. New friends, communities I joined, and volunteer experiences helped me realize the value of human connection and kindness, while strengthening my awareness of emotional boundaries. I learned to say no when necessary, understanding that refusal isn't isolation, it's protecting myself and my life. One of the most important lessons I took from this journey was that living fully and freely doesn't mean avoiding risks or emotions, but knowing yourself, recognizing your values, and choosing the path that aligns with them. Every challenge, relationship, and experience became an opportunity to grow, learn, and live more fully in terms of love. I realized that an ideal relationship isn't about dependency or control, but partnership, mutual respect, and encouragement for personal growth. I no longer felt pressured to change myself to fit someone else. Instead, I chose connections where I felt respected and able to grow together, while maintaining my freedom and core values. Looking toward the future, I felt hope and excitement. I knew there would be more challenges, but I also knew that I was strong enough to face them and learn from them. I dreamed of trips, new experiences, and genuine relationships, but all chosen and guided by me. My life had become an intentional journey, with me as the navigator, and every time Bella curled up next to me, her bright eyes looking up, I felt complete. She was not just a pet, but a testament to my journey toward growth and independence. Through every challenge, emotional clash, and moment of self-discovery, I realized that true happiness is a combination of freedom, love, and profound self-understanding. This journey from the early days of uncertainty, through emotional challenges, social experiences, and self-awareness had concluded, but it also marked the beginning of new chapters. I felt free, strong, and ready to move forward, confident that myself is my core value, freedom is my power, and life is an ongoing adventure of discovery. With Bella by my side, I knew I would never be alone. And in the late summer sunlight, I felt completely that an independent, free, and meaningful life is the greatest gift I could ever give myself.